I was curious how many people were going to be here versus in YouTube land. So thank you for being here for our first Chancellor's Town Hall of the 2020, is it 2022, 21? What is it? Whatever year it is. Thank you for being here. This is our first chance to come back together since, I do remember this, February of 2020, which was quite a while ago. So since then, we've done these as Zoom/YouTube meetings, and thank you for playing along at home. So we're going to try, this is our first try of doing a kind of a hybrid model of those of you in the room and streaming onto YouTube. So thanks for being here. I'd like to start our meetings with our land acknowledgement. So we recognize that all of us at UW-Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we're situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. Thank you. So the way this is going to work is a little bit similar to how we were doing it online. So for those of you watching along on YouTube, you can submit questions if you would like to UWT Town Hall at uw.edu, and I will try to monitor those and jump up in between and ask questions. For those of you in person, if you could come to one of these two microphones to ask your question, or if you're here as a resource to help to answer questions, if you could also go to the microphones to help answer. That will help everyone to be able to hear what we're saying. So at this time, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our new Chancellor, Dr. Sheila Edwards-Lang.
Thank you, Jill. Wow. So it's wonderful to be here, and it's even better for us to be together in person after such a long time apart. And for those of you who are watching from your offices or home, welcome to this town hall, and welcome to the 21-22 academic year. I can't start without thanking the folks who made it possible for us to come back. And as I was coming to campus, moving my office, I would see the security team and the facilities team going around, making sure that classrooms were ready, that the grounds were ready, that all of the things that needed to happen were in place for us to come back. So those of you in the audience, can you join me in thanking our facilities and our security team and our IT team for thank you for that hard work, making it possible for us to come back. You know, you go into classrooms, you assume that the batteries would still work or that the lights would still work, and after a year and a half away, you come back and I know the battery in my clock in my office had died. So things like that were all necessary to make it possible for us to come back. I want to make sure that I say a little bit about the times that we're in, and then I want to talk a little bit about this format and my expectation for how I would like to engage with the campus, and a little bit about strategic planning, and then we're going to have Mintha, our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, give us an update on enrollment, and then Joe's going to talk a little bit more about our favorite topic, COVID planning and COVID protocols. And then James is going to update us on where we are on the campus climate implementation teams. So I said in convocation and in the retreats that I have been attending that this is an uncertain time for us. Are you all having trouble hearing me in the back? So it's an uncertain time for us as we are coming back to in-person instruction after being away for so long. And so we're trying to figure out, even as the public health guidelines are changing, how we respond as a campus. So I have asked for grace. You all will hear me say that a lot. It's like, let's give each other grace, let's have patience and understanding as we are going through this really uncertain time of coming back. We don't know what's going to happen with public health. We got some indication from the UW Institute of Health Metrics last week that we can expect that we're going to have another surge. The expectation is that it won't be as bad as the surge that we experienced before this, but we don't know what's going to happen with variants as well. And so as things emerge out in the community, we're going to have to be responsive. And so just asking for grace and patience as we go forward, and understanding that although we sit in these meetings, and Joe and Mentha have been our representatives, trying to gather information, trying to make decisions, often we don't know. We're making decisions with incomplete information. And so, grace as we go forward. One of the things that when I was asked if I wanted to continue these town halls, and I said, well, I want to continue meetings where we have an opportunity to inform the campus community about what we're doing, especially on issues that are of interest and things that we've talked about. But then we started talking about the concept of a town hall is actually the community comes forward with its issues and says, we want to have a dialogue around a particular topic. And that is what a traditional town hall is. It is not the administration setting the topic. But I do feel it's important for me and for my leadership team to continue to inform the campus about where we are on critical issues. And so what I'd like to do going forward is have what we called, forgetting what I called it now, campus updates. So this format is campus updates. And so we're going to continue to do the campus updates every other month. But in the alternating month, what I'd like to see us do is have the community identify issues that they want to have conversation about, that we want to engage with. And so once a month, it'll be us sort of talking at you, giving you updates, taking questions. But after that, the following month, it will be, what is it that is of interest to the community? What is it that we want to engage around in a substantive way? And then setting up a traditional town hall dialogue to do those things. So look for that as we go forward. And then finally, the other thing is I've been in many retreats, so you all have heard me say this. It is time for us to update our strategic plan. And as I look back on the wall here in Phillips Hall, we have the goals from our last strategic plan. That strategic plan ends this year, so it is time for us to really engage in the work of thinking about mission, vision, values, and goals. I don't know that we would really change our mission and our vision that much. And then the goals, as I look at them, they actually do seem like the right goals. But the process is for us to engage internally and externally to say, are those the right things? One of the things, though, that I would like to see us change, and we will change as part of this process, is mapping metrics onto those goals so that we know how we are doing and whether we're making progress, and setting some timelines to those. But also then thinking about how our budget and resource allocation decisions overlap with those priorities that we set in a strategic plan. A strategic plan really is supposed to tell us what are our priorities, what are the things that we are going to do and emphasize in a short period of time. And that set us up for some future aspirations. So you'll see a different kind of strategic planning process. It will be engaging. I love strategic planning because it is a way to engage. And as a new chancellor, I get to meet a lot of people. I'll be actively involved in the process. But it also gives us a chance to listen, gives me a chance to listen and learn what do people think are the priorities? What should we change? And what are the things that we should emphasize from the last budget? From the last strategic planning. This will also be the faculty assembly will be working on doing its academic plan at the same time. So that has to be revised. And so it's a perfect time for us to tie academic planning, budgeting, enrollment planning to our strategic plan so that we have one plan going forward and we know how we're going to move forward. We are going to have a committee, so that committee is being formed now. We're going to use an outside consultant, so we have put out a call to the consultants that are on the University of Washington's Professional Organization Development Committee, organization as already being vetted. So we'll be looking at that and hopefully here in the next 30 days being moving forward with that. So I mentioned enrollment, and you all know more about the budget because this is my third week, but I'm sure you all know more about it than I do. But what I've seen so far is that our enrollment really drives our budget. Our budget is so sensitive to where we are in enrollment planning. And there are some things that we need to pay attention to as a campus. One is that academic plan where we say we're going to grow new programs and the numbers there and what we do to get them, but also the connection between instructional units and how they do admissions and planning, and our student affairs and the deadlines that we set for financial aid, and all of those things that make a difference in whether or not a student can actually accept the confirmation, their admission. So we've got to clean some of that up because some of the deadlines don't align. And so if an academic unit is making a decision about admissions after the financial aid deadline, that makes it impossible for a student to accept the enrollment offer. So we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about how we do enrollment because right now I think the method will tell us, but I think we're down. And when I hear enrollment down, she says a little bit, I immediately start thinking about what is the impact on our budget. And what we don't want is to make decisions individually in our individual units without thinking about the good of the whole. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about enrollment because it is so important to us as we go forward with budget. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Memphis so she can tell us where we are in enrollment. Thank you.
Is it okay to touch the mic? Can I move the mic? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? All right. So as I said before, me and a mic is a very dangerous thing. So get ready for some loud talking. Okay, so can we have the slide up, please? So good afternoon to everyone. It is really nice to see you. And this afternoon, I really want to take a few moments to bring you up to date in terms of student enrollment at UWT. So our official data will become available on Census Day. And as many of you know, that is the second Friday of each quarter. So this upcoming Friday, we will have official data from the census regarding our enrollment. So I have some slides that I'm going to be sharing in just a few moments. And I want to acknowledge the work of Bonnie Becker. So slides. How do I turn slides on? Go. I want to acknowledge the work of Bonnie Becker and the Student Success Group for taking all the information, bringing it together, and synthesizing it in such a way that we have these slides that I'm going to be using and actually borrowing from that work. That's it. And then we need to, awesome. So the long and short of it is, it has been a roller coaster ride for the world of enrollment management. If you talk to your friends and colleagues across the US, they will tell you it's been like being on a roller coaster. 1 minute you're high, 1 minute you're down, You're all over the place. Sometimes you're actually nauseous because you're not liking what you're seeing. Here's some of the news that has been flashing most recently around enrollment. So there are conversations about this pipeline. We talk about this mythical college pipeline from high school to college. Is it broken? There are conversations about the pandemic, making it really impossible for students to even see themselves coming back to college. Certainly, we know our population has been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. There are dips happening for students of color. Community colleges as a whole have seen just an abysmal decline in their enrollments. And then also we're hearing more recently that students are not coming and they're not staying. So not only are they choosing not to enroll, but once they're here, they're choosing to drop out. So it's a whole host of things that have really contributed to the landscape of enrollment management within the US, but also within our particular context here in the Pacific Northwest. So you've heard about the admissions funnel, right? Who all has heard the admissions funnel? Hand up in the air. So the funnel is this idea of you have a lot of prospective students at the very top, and then over time it whittles down as they become admitted and once they enroll. So here's a snapshot of our admissions funnel. The admission, was that a good or So the admissions funnel, you will see that the recruitment team did an amazing job in spite of the landscape to increase interest in UW-Tacoma. So we saw almost a 5% increase in the number of students that actually applied. We also increased the admit rate, so many more students were offered admission to UW-Tacoma. Then we start to see the dip. So the dip is right towards the end of that funnel. So students have been admitted, but we're trying to woo them to commit and to confirm and to enroll with us. So this snapshot was taken just a couple of days ago, and you'll see what, in terms of confirmations for new students, we saw a slight dip. And then for registered students, again, we saw a slight dip. Looking a little bit more closely at that, by schools, we wanted to get a sense of what might be happening in that particular area. And again, you see a dip. There is a dip in all academic areas with one exception, and that is going to be in engineering and technology. On the graduate school level, we see a slight little bump, but ever so slight. Okay? So when we think about the admissions picture, new students is one small swath. We're talking 26% perhaps of incoming, of the total student body, new students. The vast majority are returning students. So from my perspective, there's something wrong with that pipeline. There's something wrong with that faucet. We got a leakage somewhere happening. And it's incumbent upon all of us to think about what we might be able to do to encourage students to return and to register. So interesting enough, the completion coaches did an awful lot of work partnering with folks in academic advising, UAA, partnering with folks in student affairs, reaching out to students to get a sense of what's going on. What is contributing to your desire not to return or to enroll? And it's all over the place. You know, financial aid, I want a break, some elements related to my major, feeling socially not connected, family obligations, and so on. Reasons for leaving, drilling down a little bit more. Students were told us that when it came to COVID, it had a bit of an impact on their decision not to return. We heard a lot of comments. I'm saying we, I guess it's Bonnie's team. Bonnie's team received a lot of feedback about concern of getting into a major, notification, and process. And Sheila mentioned that just a few moments ago. When we look at our deadlines and so forth, they don't always line up. So sometimes students are waiting to hear from a particular major about whether or not they're in, and that's also having an adverse impact on their decision to come back to campus. So it's all really interrelated. The other thing is we found that students were leaving without talking to faculty or staff. So it's really easy to leave UW-Tacoma as a student. You can withdraw, you can leave, you can stop out. Coming back is really more difficult. There are so many processes and forms and things that are required of students. So we almost make it not worthwhile for a student to come back because of all these barriers that are in place. So we're going to take the time this year to peel back all those layers, have very deep conversations about how all of this contributes to the overall landscape. Now, in terms of numbers, here are the actual numbers, and I don't have a graph for you, I'm just going to give you the numbers. So as of today, there are 5,068 students registered for autumn, 5068 for autumn 2021, compared to 5,380 last year. That's a difference of about 310, 12 students. Who's a mathematician in here? Final answer, 312. And that's a difference of about 5.8% decline. So we're down. So next steps, what can we do? So again, admissions, new students, that's one piece of it. The enrollment does not rest solely with the team over in the mattress factory, nor does it rest on those advisors in the schools and across the campus. It is a collective effort that we're going to embark upon. So improving enrollment requires a campus-wide commitment to a coordinated recruitment strategy, which we will be embarking upon this year, and also offering all of our students a high-quality experience after enrollment. High-quality experience after enrollment. So they interface with facilities, they interface with the transportation team, they interface with a whole host of folks on campus. When I'm calling an office and no one's picking up the phone, that has an impact. Or if I'm transferred 10 different times trying to find the right person, that has an impact. Even the ways in which a student is trying to navigate how to find a building on campus has an impact. So let us think about the ways that we want to be in community with each other, enhance the experiences for everyone, and even think about the words of Andre, our ASUWT president, and what he said last week at Convocation, that we all belong. That every single student on this campus ought to feel like they belong, that we are going to wrap our arms around them and provide them with the support that they need so they can be successful. I'll get off my soapbox for now. Next. There was no humor, no laughter on that one? Okay. Thank you, Ali. I'll treat you to lunch. The other thing is we'd like to work with the schools and their advisors to learn more about their particular enrollment funnels and what we can do to kind of shift the dynamic there. You all know that we have been functioning without an ABC for enrollment for the last year. We will continue that search. We will jumpstart that search in the next week, constituted a team of folks on the search committee, and we believe we're going to come through with another really deep, diverse, talented pool and really seal the deal this time around. And then also continue to work with Bonnie and the deans to do a deep dive into student success. So that's the snapshot right now. For more information, Bonnie has a whole list of resources. There was a report done on why students leave college. There is the COVID check-in survey that she's continuing to do. And then also there is the design sprint. So student affairs with currently enrolled students and also support from Vivian McMillan and her group did a little bit of research to find out what new and returning students are looking for. So that concludes my presentation. And we've got some work to do, but we can get the job done. Thank you.
I'm going to try to demonstrate good COVID protocol. I don't know, am I supposed to wipe the actual microphone? Okay. Doesn't that sound good? Okay, I just want to give a couple of quick updates, and then I will introduce James. Not that James needs any introductions. So on our COVID planning, there's kind of 4 pieces that I want to make sure everyone is aware of, and that is kind of 4 of our major screens that we're using to try to make this place safe. The first is vaccines. We ran vaccine clinics in this room all summer long, once a week, thanks to our partners at Multicare. Multicare will also be setting up in the Laborers Hall and having vaccine clinics probably again once a week. I'll know more. As soon as I know more on that, I will send it out to campus for those still seeking vaccines or once we get into a booster mode. And for anyone unvaccinated, today is the last day that you can get your Johnson & Johnson vaccine to be 2 weeks out from the 18th, which is the date you have to be 2 weeks out from your last vaccine. So just know that. Masks, our second line of defense. I just want to say thank you to everyone for demonstrating really good mask protocol. I've seen really great mask behavior on campus, and I want to recognize that and say thank you. Testing. So testing is another kind of line of defense against COVID. Testing will be available through the Husky Coronavirus Testing Program, I believe beginning today up at the YMCA. Test kits will be available for pickup daily, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you'll be able to pick up a test kit. It's a self-test kit for those who have been involved in the Husky Coronavirus Testing Program. I think it's the same kit. You package it all back up. There will be a drop box in the Y that you drop it back into that drop box. That box will be picked up daily and taken up to Seattle. My experience has been usually 36 to 48 hours. We'll see as things move forward what that timeline stays like. But that is the plan. Kits will be available there. There are also kits available to students through the Pierce County Health Department, through Student Affairs. And Mentha, how do you want students, do we know information on how they can access those kits? I didn't hear a word you said. Okay, we're gonna send information out. The difference on those kits is those, same thing, pick up the kit, do it yourself, package it up. Those you can drop into a FedEx, any FedEx receiver. So a student who maybe lives in Bonnie Lake and doesn't want to make a trip back into campus just to drop it in the box, that would be it's a good option for them. Testing, and then the cleaning. And I just want to reiterate what Chancellor Lang said, and that is thanking our facilities and custodial and IT and security, the staff who have been here on campus and doing a fantastic job of all of the changes that you have noticed on campus and the air systems and the cleaning protocols and everything they're doing to try to clean things to keep us safe. So those were the four main pieces that I wanted you to understand and know about. So two other things. One is I just want to physically show you the resource if you haven't taken the time to go look at it. So this is our new, by the way, thank you, Brian, and our communications team for upgrading our website. So this is our new webpage. If you go down here, COVID-19 Resources, we try to keep this updated with current information, the latest kind of policies and guidelines. This is your resource for connecting to everything. So I just wanted to physically show you where it is if you haven't had a chance to go here. And there's been many of you in this room who have reached out to me saying, hey, here's a broken link, or here's a question that's not there, or please keep doing that. Let me know. Let me know, let John know, let Brian know, and we will update this. So wanted to show you that one. And then one last thing, and that is you may have noticed they're digging a little hole out here in what used to be a parking lot. So this is Phillip Hall, or Phillip Hall. We're in Phillip Hall. This is Milgard Hall, or the beginnings of Milgard Hall. There's a live feed, so you can, if you want to, someone wants to run out there, we can see you. If you want to watch construction. It has the information on Milgard Hall, what it's going to be, what's going to be in there. I just wanted to get two key messages across. If you don't have to drive down through this loop, don't. It's a construction zone, it gets congested, so if you don't have to drive through this loop, stay away from there. This project will be going on for the next year. It won't be open until winter quarter of 2023 is when we will have classes and move everything into there. But the construction activity will continue but for the next year. So continue to avoid that area. One of the things we did in preparation for, I hate saying the word parking, but for removing that parking was expanding the Whitney lot up the hill. So for those of you who need a workout and build your calves, that's our new workout program, is walking up to Whitney. But that lot was expanded, almost doubled, not quite. Last year it opened, so. All right, James, would you like to come tell us about the progress of the campus climate work?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So I have the good pleasure this afternoon to give you a brief update on the status of the campus climate implementation planning work that's been underway now. If you remember, this time last year, we formed 4 implementation teams, and their responsibility was to develop a set of recommendations to help us better understand how to create a climate of belonging, respect, and inclusiveness. We want to promote an environment, a living environment, a working environment, a learning environment that really supports the success of all members of our campus community. We want our faculty, staff, and students to feel as if they can bring their whole selves right to their engagements here on campus and in the communities that surround UW-Tacoma. And so with these 4 climate teams representing faculty, staff, and undergraduate and graduate students, these colleagues of ours and students, 22 of them, engaged in a year-long process of reviewing our climate survey findings. We have a 400-page climate survey report, and they read that report in full, and then they went ahead and developed a process by which they were able to identify themes, look at gaps and areas where they needed to get additional information. And so they hosted a series of town halls, community forums, summits, conducted one-on-one interviews with our campus leaders, as well as other units. And then from that, they were able to develop 4 implementation plans. Faculty, staff, students. The one for students was a combined implementation plan. These plans can be found on Equity Inclusion's website. If you were to go under the About tab and click that tab and scroll down, you'll be able to see information about the Climate Oversight Committee, which I'll talk about momentarily. And behind the UW Net ID protected wall, you can log in with your credentials and access the 4 plans. These 4 plans consist of 34 issues that were identified by our climate teams. And each of those issues have a number of action items associated with those issues. They all coalesce around the following areas: training and development, policy review and revision, program development, as well as accountability systems. And so within those 4 areas, Dr. Harris and myself are working with campus leadership and those identified as responsible entities within those implementation plans to develop an equity-centered and inclusive process for taking action on those recommendations. So that work is currently happening right now. Over the course of the summer, Dr. Harris has been working very closely with campus leadership to move forward on some immediate items that were named in the action plans that there was some urgency around getting those done. So those have happened already. But there are a number of items that really involve long-term work, and so we're developing a process for moving forward on those recommendations currently. So we also charge what we're calling a climate oversight committee. And this group is really chiefly responsible for monitoring progress on those action items. That work has already begun. The committee has met twice already, this summer and at the beginning of the fall quarter. And currently, they're establishing bylaws. They are also developing a process by which they can stay in conversation with the community. As I mentioned earlier, they already conducted a number of campus forums, conducted these interviews, and from those meetings, derived a set of data that they're using now to inform the development of these action items. But we know that the campus community's needs change, and that they are also wanting to find a way to deliver feedback and make sure that the campus leadership is being able to track that and be responsive to concerns and issues that the community is experiencing. So the Climate Oversight Committee right now is looking at how do we kind of assess climate on an ongoing basis, not just based upon the data that was derived from the initial climate survey report. So that's what we're looking at right now. In terms of this other part of our work, and that is looking at campus leadership, taking action on these items, but also thinking about not just saying, how do we build accountability systems for campus leadership? It's also looking at our entire community. And how can our entire community be engaged in this process of creating a sense of belonging, finding our own agency, and ensuring that our colleagues and our students, right, those who we partner with to do this important work, are fully engaged in this process and have clarity around what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm putting this to all of you to really think about, within the context of your own work, within your own sphere of experience, right, and the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, how are you creating climate policies, practices that really help everyone feel as if they are part of the fabric of this campus? So that's my ask to all of you. Right now, the work of the Climate Oversight Committee is really involved in our campus leadership, is really involved in putting in place an infrastructure, right, to kind of support this ongoing engagement around this work. So with that, I am going to turn things back over to Joe. Appreciate it.
Okay, now is our Q&A section of the meeting. So these 2 microphones are set up on either side of the room if you want to come ask your question. Because I know that everyone kind of slowly makes their way to the microphone, I've got two that came in online. So let me ask these 2 to warm you up. And that is, first of all, the questioner says, welcome to campus, Chancellor Lang. Welcome to UW Tacoma. Here's my question. UW is requiring staff and faculty to verify their vaccination status. This is comforting. But as a faculty member, I am most likely to be exposed in the classroom. Will students be required to provide proof of vaccination? If so, when? So while Mentha is coming up here, I'll attempt to answer it. You can go to it, yeah. And then Mentha can correct me. And that is that students were supposed to, by the first day of class, attest to their vaccination status. And those who have received either a religious or medical exemption will be required to test, the testing I was describing earlier, weekly. So, Mentha, would you like to correct or add?
Can you hear me? Here we go, right on. So yes, that is correct. So at this juncture, all students were notified before returning to campus that they would be expected to submit an attestation form. In addition to that, they received another notice that said we need to verify that. And they were only able to exempt out for two purposes. Those individuals are being, and that's going to a central review body who's looking at those. So it's not an automatic exemption. There are individuals that are reviewing those requests one by one by one. All of this information is being processed by Hall Health. Hall Health will then notify the campus of those individuals who are not vaccinated and have an exemption, and we will work with them so that they will be tested weekly and that information submitted to Hall Health. So it's an ongoing iterative process. So it is likely that we're sitting in the room right now with someone that's not vaccinated, right? That's the world in which we're living in right now. So we're taking additional precautions, and I would encourage folks to take those precautions as well. You know, we gave a shout out to everyone in this room for wearing their mask. I got to give a shout out to the students, because if anybody was at convocation, you saw most of the students had their mask on covering their nose, their nose and mouth. So we're of the opinion right now that they are adhering and going to follow our lead and continue to do so. I will acknowledge, you know, it's clumsy. I get it. It's a little unsettling. I get it. We would like more verification and more protective measures. We're doing what we can with the resources that we have. We've also, or I have, talked to colleagues on other campuses that were able to operate before there was a vaccine in place and after the vaccine was in place. So we'll take it day by day. We thank you for leaning in and asking those difficult questions. We also thank you for helping us protect the community collectively.
Thank you, Mentha. So the next question is about doors. Under what conditions will all building doors be unlocked again, regardless of who has class or works in a specific space, especially since most spaces have workarounds, i.e. enter through, you know, a middle door. So Susan, would you like to talk about doors and our plans?
Sure. Can everyone hear me? So for the doors right now, for the mitigation strategies, as you saw, the mapping is a different way of pivoting. Our hope is, for the public, we try to come up with kind of an access and health balance right now of when we have operations. So we know a lot of departments are also on teleworking. So having folks kind of walk through buildings, how do we protect also assets on buildings as well? So we're still looking at that, we're examining. We're looking at this as a transition quarter to see what plans are working and where we need to pivot. We're also very mindful of the infection rate here in Pierce County. So those numbers are still racking up. And also our transient community, they are still getting resources from the health department and housing, but we have some that don't want those resources. So we're still trying to balance that. Right now, the last week was more of a test week, and we're seeing how folks are going through pathways. We're also having some challenges with the vendor and having a mass programming for students. That's why we don't have all doors just Husky card ready only, but for all faculty and staff within 4 days, we had over 868 people programmed for exterior buildings that are on the Husky cards. So we are moving towards that. It's an easier population to control than student population, which is more transient, and not till census day do we know how many are on campus. So that's kind of where we're pivoting, and we're just being very flexible in this process And as we do that, we just keep adapting. And we know that some buildings don't have any activities. So there isn't an expectation for public to access those points. We also don't want to see anyone get hurt, trying to figure out how to get out and where to go.
Thank you, Susan.
you.
Yes.
And one more note about vaccination rates and also the numbers of individuals that are testing positive. There is a public website. There is a public dashboard that anybody can access. So I often Google University of Washington COVID dashboard, and that will pop up, and you can see the number of cases across the campuses. You can also sort it by individual campus. So if you looked at it today, you will see the numbers that were reported. The same is true for the vaccination rates, or individuals who have been vaccinated. So that's being built right now. So I was able to access some of the data on Friday. And from what I saw, well over 75% of our students had submitted their vaccination. 90% of those individuals were fully vaccinated. So that was the data that I saw as of Friday. Once again, it will be public. It will be public probably within the next week or so.
Okay, that's all the questions that have come in online. Now it's your turn. Someone has to have a question. Here we go. Marion.
So I have a question regarding the strategic plan, specifically what metrics are going to be required? Will they be against our similar universities? And how will student success be a part of that, let alone the student voice?
Would you like to take I've got my opinions on it. Would you like to take a shot first?
Well, I'll tell you my experience in doing metrics with strategic plannings. It can be overwhelming, and so you come up with thousands of metrics. We're going to have to be very concise about, as I look at growth, for example. We said our goal was growth. So what do we mean by that, and how are we going to measure that? Is it the number of buildings? Is it the number of students that we're growing? So we won't know what the metrics are until we know what the goals are and the strategies. And then from there, the metrics really are the last thing that you do, because they're part of what you say you're going to work on. What I imagine, having listened to Mentha, student retention is going to be a big issue for us. And so I would want to look at fall-to-fall retention. I would want to look at admission to the major. And then you want to disaggregate those metrics as well. So you want to look for differences by first-gen, low-income students of color. You always want to, I always prefer to disaggregate data so that I can see patterns and differences. And I would suggest that we do the same here. But there's some that we know we're going to build in. Retention is one, because that's troubling. We don't want our students to come here and leave without their degree. Another one, I think about equity, and there's a lot of training that's coming out of the climate plans. So really trying to think about, is it a percentage of our folks that have attended a training? Is it, do we have a goal of how many faculty, staff, and students we want to be in a training session? So if we come up with some goal or strategy around training, we want to be able to measure how many people are doing it. And do we have the infrastructure actually to track that? So those are some of the things, but the one thing I love about strategic plan is we do this together. So, I don't go in the back room and write the plan and come up with the metrics. We write the plan together, and there's always a lot of checking in to say, is this this is what we think we heard? And this is how it's in the plan. Is that what you all said you want to do? And then we come back and we do the same with metrics. But metrics can be a long process, and you have to prioritize which ones you're going to look at.
Yeah, if you could address how you would include student voices in there, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. Students have to be part of the process. So I found that you can work through the formal student government structures, but not all students are active in that. So what I've tried to do is make sure that we have student forums at different times of day because, you know, there's some students who are working, so they're not necessarily able to come to a 10 o'clock meeting. So making sure you have different times, going out to student clubs and orgs or going out to where we know students are and getting them to be engaged in the process. So both through formal and informal processes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would add, Marion, that we can always measure ourselves against our peer institutions and do that, and we will continue to do that. I really hope that we set our own goals, though, and I hope we set some that scare us, because I think we should. I think we're an institution that has a lot of smart people that can figure out how we're going to get to those goals. We just have to set some that are a little bit scary. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Hoffman. I'm interim dean in urban studies. So this question is particularly important to me. What is your plan for the hiring of an EVCAA? We'd love our dean back. How are you building out that search committee and search process?
Question, and one of the things I should have done was started with all of the openings that we have and all of the searches, and this is a critical one for our campus. So I want to thank Mentha and Menika Abraham for agreeing to co-chair the search. We are going to hire a search firm who specializes in a national search for this. And we're putting together the search committee now. We have asked for names from the staff assembly and the faculty assembly, and we've gotten those, and we've been contacting some of those folks, putting that committee together. And I have a draft charge letter on my desk. So we're moving forward as quickly as possible to get that search underway. And the idea is to have someone in place by the spring, so that you can get your dean back. But yes, it's anything. Did I miss anything, Dr. Madaris?
No, absolutely. It's moving along. The idea is that it's a national search, so you have to understand the timeline that we are talking about is an aspirational timeline, but we are hoping to have somebody here before the end of this academic year. We are hoping to identify, because that individual's recognition or acceptance of that position helps with other searches as well. That's the other second. There's a second part to this.
Okay, the other critical search that's going on is the Vice Chancellor for Equity and Inclusion. I know. This just makes me sad that James McShay is leaving us to go back home, to be closer to home. And so we're in the process right now. We got nominations for interim. So we'll have an interim, but we are launching a national search for permanent Vice Chancellor for Equity and Inclusion. And the idea is that that would get underway in November, as soon as doing the same thing, trying to identify who's going to be the search committee chairs, hiring a search firm that can help us do a national search for a permanent vice chancellor to get someone in place by the spring. So 2 critical hires. We also have some people in interim dean positions. So I know Dr. Madaris has a plan for moving us forward to fill those positions. And then we talked about the assistant vice chancellor for enrollment, which is going to be so important for us to get. And that is a search that has been ongoing. We have not been able to fill, but we need to get that person on board because enrollment drives budget. If you all remember me saying anything, enrollment drives budget. And so if we don't get our enrollments together, our budgets are going to suffer. And then that comes with all of the unpleasant things of budget reductions, which nobody likes. I hate it. And so we've got to pay a lot of attention to enrollment, even in the absence of that person, but we need to get that person on board. Other searches that I might have missed? Oh, how could I forget that? Yes. Leslie Kincaid, thank you for agreeing to serve as our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Interim Vice Chancellor for Advancement. And that is a search that we do in partnership with UW Seattle's advancement office. And so the vice president, senior vice president for advancement and development, and I will work together to launch that search. The idea is that we would launch that in January. That's because there were so many other searches going on for senior advancement officers in the University of Washington system, that we decided, you know, we've got a great person here. Leslie agreed to serve as interim, and then we're not as desperate as maybe other folks are. So we can delay because we got a great person here who's agreed to step in as the interim.
I have a follow-up question for the testing, Mentha. I don't know that there's an answer to this, but how is testing for non-vaccinated students going to be enforced?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
So soon, there will be a whole litany of documents that addresses this. So Joe mentioned coming down to the RAIN webpage and drilling down, but also if you go to Student Affairs, you'll find a whole host of documents there too. So in essence, we are looking to our Student Conduct Committee to enforce these efforts. So an individual who is non-compliant will receive potentially a variety of sanctions, disciplinary sanctions that could include separation from the university. So that's going to be the process. So I won't drill down into all the details. There's a lot of stuff there, but do know that individuals, we are monitoring that on a weekly basis. Individuals who are not compliant, there will be a report that goes to the conduct office. Then the conduct office will then take it upon themselves to adjudicate the case. The case could again result in a student being separated from the university. So that's the process that we have in place.
So that is the time that we have. My watch is showing 1:28. So if there are no further questions, Chancellor Lang, any last words?
Indulging us in this sort of information flow at you. Next month will be more of a town hall. So what we'll ask, and we'll get a call out, is a call out to the community to say, what topic would you like us to engage with as a community? And then we could either bring in outside speakers, have a panel discussion, have us have some kind of interactive conversation around that topic. So that's what we'll do next month. And so those of you who are at home or in your offices or here in the auditorium, send us your ideas about critical things that you think we should have a conversation as a community around for next month. So thank you.